Join me in this solo episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast as we dive into a mid-year check-in, evaluating our business, motherhood, self-care, and relationships to get back on track and achieve our goals for the rest of the year in 2024. Welcome back to the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast, Mama, the show where we dive deep into the inspiring stories, practical tips, and real-life experiences of mompreneurs. We're balancing the beautiful chaos of motherhood and entrepreneurship, and I also do solo episodes like this one today. I'm your host, Angela Mishuli, and today I'm going to dive into a mid-year recap. It's hard to believe we're now in July, and we're at the end of quarter two, and as we have reached this time, it's really perfect to reflect on your progress, reassess your goals, and make adjustments to ensure you stay on track for the rest of the year. So join me as I discuss some practical tips and strategies to help you refocus and achieve your business objectives if you're feeling like you've gotten off track. Or maybe this is a time for you to go, oh yeah, I'm doing a great job. I'm doing really well. And I'm just getting back from vacation and trying to get back in the saddle. Here in the US, I know we have listeners in multiple foreign countries, but in the US, around July 4th is a huge vacation holiday time. So many moms here in the US are getting back from really giving so much to their families and to their travel efforts and regrouping. So I just feel ya. I am there too. And I want to mention a friend's podcast episode, Jackie McMullen. She hosts the Podcast Coach for Mompreneurs podcast. She has a great episode. I'm going to link below. She has some really great tips. I was thinking maybe I should do a podcast episode about getting back to the swing of things after vacation, and she did such a great job, and she has this really great way of kind of centering you and bringing out your spiritual side to kind of ground yourself and get in touch with how you're feeling. So I think that's so important. So I'm going to leave a link to her podcast episode, and I absolutely look forward to bringing our conversation to the podcast later on this year. So let's start with some of the things that we need to be reviewing at this time in the year. And this is not going to be your typical business only focused evaluation because we're mompreneurs, right? We got way more going on than just looking at our businesses. So I'm going to talk about motherhood. I'm going to talk about relationships and the important self-care evaluation that you need to be checking in with yourself at this point in the year. So first of all, we're going to focus on the business side of things and what have been your achievements and challenges so far this year? It's so important to celebrate your wins and acknowledge your accomplishments. So there are two things there. Your wins, acknowledging them, and then celebrating them. So make sure that you have created a list of your wins for 2024 so far. Do you have any major milestones? Have you had any successful projects? I am really delighted to share that I have completed all of the podcast interviews with guests for 2024 already. We're in July. I've asked a few of those people to be on the podcast, but the vast majority are people who reach out to me through their assistants or their agents or directly and ask to be on the podcast. And I have some incredible interviews coming up this year. So be sure, if you haven't subscribed yet, do that so you don't miss an episode coming up. We do a new interview every Monday, and then I try to do a solo episode every other week. So I'm getting back in the saddle to doing that right now. We have really accomplished a lot on the podcast this year. We have been ranked in the top 10 of Mompreneur Podcasts by FeedSpot. We have also been ranked in the top 30 of Mompreneur Podcasts to follow in 2024 on YouTube. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. And FeedSpot has given us that recognition, and thank you so much to FeedSpot for that. But I'm just so happy to share that. For me, I'm continuing to help moms. I'm continuing to book incredible guests on the podcast and continue to make an impact. So for me, I'm doing what I sought out to do with this podcast in that area. So how are you doing in your business with the impact? Are you acknowledging those wins? And are you celebrating them? Are you doing something for yourself? So check in with yourself about those things. And then too, as part of understanding our achievements, let's look at our challenges and where are the areas that you have struggled, and then have you addressed it? And I'm going to share a little bit about a struggle that I've had this year, and I made tremendous strides in working through that. I struggled this year with the sense that I was not addressing something in my life as part of my business. It really felt like I was not being my authentic self. And so I was working with a coach, and it came to me that since I was very young, I've had, it's hard to describe. I'm still getting used to being able to describe it to people, but several of the claircognizance is probably one of the things that I have the most. So I have had some really interesting experiences in my life spiritually. And so I have had some really interesting interactions spiritually with guests. And I love dealing with those guests and clients and prospective clients who embrace the spiritual side of things. So I started my journey to becoming a Reiki practitioner. I have finished my first Reiki training. I ended that in June. I'm super excited about that. In mid-August, I'll be done with my second level Reiki training. So I am going to be changing the services that I bring to clients because of my new Reiki training. And I'm so excited about that. But it really came from this knowing, this feeling that there was something more that I should be doing, that I should be addressing and bringing. And throughout my life, we get so many messages from society, maybe family, that we shouldn't, that those things are bad, or it's silly, or it's hogwash, or whatever you want to call it. And people who have spiritual gifts know that that's not true. But we're kind of encouraged to kind of hide or not talk about or use our gifts. And so I'm going to be helping clients in that way starting soon. I'm super excited about it. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I'm sure that will come to me. But I knew I had this challenging area, and I knew that I had people who are guests on the podcast, clients, people I interacted with that just talked about this profound impact that I was having on them. And they had on me, and I was trying to understand that more. So I'm telling you this story because if there's something, an aspect of your life, we aren't entrepreneurs in a vacuum. If there's a part of your life that you feel you have been neglecting, absolutely pay attention to that and bring that to your business. Bring that passion, bring that gift to your business. So I'm really looking forward to talking more about that, so stay tuned for that. So the second area I'm going to talk about is reassessing your goals, reviewing your goals that you set at the beginning of the year. And so at the beginning of the year, I had some personal goals, and with my new training, I'm reevaluating what those are. And so I am going to be sharing that more. I have some goals regarding our social media and our podcast and our YouTube channel. So if you could help us continue to increase our subscribers, subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us as a listener of the podcast, and engage with us. Send us a message. I know so many people who tend to be quiet about the impact of a podcast episode on their life, but you have no idea how much it means to the host to reach out to them and say, hey, this really impacted me. I really love this story. I really love this interview. It makes an incredible impact to share that. So, if this episode or another episode has had that impact on you, be sure to reach out and let us know. It means so much. So a part of assessing your goals is number 3, analyzing your metrics and your data. So what are some of your key performance indicators? Are you looking at your website? Are you looking at your social media? Are you looking at your sales, of course, and your conversions? So making sure that you're looking at all of the website traffic and social media engagement and those things to measure where you are and look at what is working and double down on what is working. So one of the trends that I'm seeing right now in social media is really just more of the continuing to be your authentic self and not worrying about what other people are going to think, speaking your truth, putting your services out there, putting yourself out there. I know that is so hard, especially if you're just starting out, but really look at how much am I putting myself out of my comfort zone. I try to check in with myself with that. And it seems like every time that I put myself out of my comfort zone, my metrics start going up. So maybe check in with yourself about that. Then number 4, assessing your systems and your processes. It's really a great time to review the efficiency of your current systems and workflows. So for me, in this year, one of the big bottlenecks was that we were getting so many emails that we were responding to them a lot during the day and not kind of focusing on what we needed to do. So I created an email responder that now helps us focus on emails and getting back to potential guests and questions at certain times on certain days. So it really changed our workflow. And if you would like to see my autoresponder, I've heard from people that they love it and need to create their own. Absolutely create your own. So you're not in your email all the time. So that frees you up. I love, a guest once said nobody's going to email you that they're dying. And so we have this kind of sense that we need to get back to people right away all the time about every question or everything that they send us. And that's just not true. But what's really great is to set their expectations. And so for us, creating that email responder just really was a game changer. So are there any new tools or techniques to enhance your productivity? Are there new things, a new app or tool that can help you stay more organized or help you stay more focused? Definitely look at those things in your business too. So number 5, plan for the next 2 quarters. So create a detailed action plan for the rest of the year. We have a typical time when so many offers goes out is Black Friday. We have the new school year we need to prepare for. We have the holidays. There's so much coming up in 2024. So what would you like to put out there? Put together a step-by-step plan for achieving those key goals that you want to have the little check mark against at the end of the year. When I put out my end of the year podcast episode, you can go, you know what? I did it. So prioritize those tasks that are in your goal. Make sure that you're not creating too large of a chunk of goals in your plan. Make them manageable, make them attainable. So prioritize the tasks that you need to achieve or someone else can help you do. Stay flexible and be prepared to adapt to those hiccups that are going to come up. And we're not meant to do this alone. Make sure that you have a support network. Make sure that you have somebody to help you accomplish those goals that you have. So number 6, establish a regular check-in routine. Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be monthly? How are you going to regularly check in to keep yourself accountable? Find an accountability partner or join a group or hire a coach like myself that absolutely works as an accountability partner. And so those are some of the top ways that you need to check in with yourself at this point, where you are in your business from just a mere business standpoint. But like I said at the top of the episode, I think it's so important for us to check in with ourselves where we are as moms. So what are some of the things that we need to be thinking about as moms? And here are some of the things that I think about. Am I spending quality time with my children? And this year has been a wonderful time for us to take vacation, to spend time picking up my children at school and talking with them about how their day is going, and try to eat as many meals together as we can, considering our busy schedule. So what are some of the ways that maybe you can foster more connection and more growth? I mean, coming up, it's my oldest daughter's senior year in high school, so I'm really thinking about making the most of, the time that she's still going to be living at home, however long that's going to be. So how are you also managing the balance between work and family? Are there areas where you feel overwhelmed or you feel stretched too thin? And are there any adjustments that you can make to find better balance with your time and your energy between your business and home? And then, of course, let's talk about your own well-being. Are you practicing self-care? What you're doing, is it effective? Are you maintaining your physical, emotional, and mental health? Are you communicating what you need well enough? And, are there things that you need to add? Is it something that you need to focus on more? So, more on the self-care mid-year check-in. I have 3 questions that you can be asking yourself to kind of check in. Like, how are you doing? And so, are you prioritizing your physical health? And honestly, this is one I really struggle with. I really get into tasks and don't go take a walk and do the physical activity that I know I need to do. So for me, I need to continue to try to make that a priority. But also, are you eating what you should be eating? Are you sleeping enough? And this is a big one. I know we all do this. I've been totally guilty of this. Are you keeping those medical checkups? Are you doing the things that you should be doing to check in with your doctor? Or are there things you keep wanting to make an appointment about and don't? So make sure you are listing those things and keeping up with them. So question number 2 with your self-care is, how are you managing stress and mental health? Are you finding effective coping mechanisms? Are you practicing some mindfulness practices, hobbies, or making enough time to spend with family and friends or healthcare professionals for your mental health? Are you doing those things that you need to? And so what I think is so helpful with all of these things is just putting time in your calendar for you. If you just putting time to think about this. So question number 3 is, am I making time for activities that bring me joy and fulfillment? And, doing those things, play is productive. So make sure that you are incorporating time to be playful, time to be happy and tap into a side of yourself that is not thinking about business or family obligations. We always have that mental checklist. And so in relaxing, are those things that you're making sure that you're prioritizing? So the last area that I wanted to make sure that we think about when it comes to our mid-year check-in, I have 3 questions that you can be asking yourself about your relationships. And whether you're married or in a committed relationship or whatnot, we probably all have a predominant relationship in our life that we need to be considering our role in. So, are you communicating effectively and openly about what it is that you need to feel heard and understood? And are there any barriers to open dialogue about what those things are? And so what can be so hard for many women and moms is just asking for what they want or knowing what they want. And so, finding time to journal or just making time to think about those things can be really powerful. So, question number 2 about relationships are, you spending enough quality time with, those that you're in a relationship with? And do you need to make any changes to that or prioritize or enhance your experience or, ensure that it's not a one-sided relationship? And then question number 3 is, are you supporting each other's personal growth and well-being? And that's a really important question. Sometimes we have this if we're somebody who's really focused on personal growth, we can be really critical of others who are not on the same track. But giving somebody the grace to be where they're at in their own journey can be really powerful, and not putting pressure on them to kind of be where we're at. I think a lot of people who are focused on their personal development struggle with that. So as I wrap up this episode on our mid-year check-in, I'm just going to go over some of the points that I talked about, which were: one, reflecting on your achievements and your challenges and making sure that you're keeping track of those milestones and that you're celebrating them, but also identifying the challenges and areas where you struggled and hopefully how you overcame that obstacle and how you addressed it. Number two, assessing your goals and really finding a way to identify, are those goals something that are still real for me? Is something I really feel connected with emotionally, because that's important in achieving a goal? And am I on track or am I not? And if you aren't, what plan can you put together to begin to get back on track? Number three, analyzing your metrics, evaluating those key performance indicators. Do you have those KPIs? And are you tracking them, and are you looking at them to identify trends and making the most of what's probably working in your business? And number four, assess your systems and processes. What's working, what's not. Identify those bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and identify any new tools or techniques to enhance your productivity. Number five, evaluating your role as a mom. Checking in with your parenting journey so far this year, identifying those areas where you feel you're excelling and areas where you need some improvement, and set some personal goals for your role as a mom. Then number six, a self-care check-in. What is working? What is maybe you need to prioritize more? Are you keeping those appointments? Set new self-care goals. Make sure you're putting that time in your calendar just for you. And then two, making sure that you're checking in with those important relationships in your life. Are you communicating well? Does there need to be some reprioritization? Are things one-sided? So some of the tips for staying on track for the rest of the year that I can share with you are just establishing a regular check-in time, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And that is so important, to just find some time. Find an accountability partner, joining a support group, practicing your self-care to maintain your energy and your focus. So I hope this episode was helpful. I was thinking about my mid-year check-in as I was talking to you today. You're doing amazing. You're working so hard. And, it is really incredible that you're managing to start and grow a business while also being a mother and taking care of yourself. It's all so important, and there is no such thing as balance. You have to lean into one area or another as your attention is called to them. So this is a really good time to assess what needs your attention. So if you need some help with this check-in, with getting back on track, with achieving your goals from now to the end of 24 and beyond, you can always reach out to me. You can learn more about the services that I offer at mombusinesscoach.com. You can find all of my social media connections there. I would love to hear from you. And if you would like to see my automatic responder on my email, you can email me at hello@mombusinesscoach.com. We would love to hear from you. It means so much to us. And like I said, I hope that this was helpful. It was helpful for me to just have this conversation with you and thinking about my own mid-year check-in and where do I want to be at the end of 2024 and beyond, and really thinking big picture about several things. So thank you so much for listening. If you have been on vacation and are getting back into the swing of things, I am sending you lots of love and good energy because it is not easy. But one thing that really helps me is checking in with fellow mompreneurs and their podcasts. I'm going to leave a link to Jackie McMullen's podcast episode below, like I mentioned at the beginning. And then to, really remind yourself of how much other moms need to hear your voice, how much they need your services, how much they need your talents, and how much that makes an impact in their life. And so if you need that fuel to keep going, that's definitely what I think about. And I'm sure the same is for you. So thank you so much.